Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I have done some more sewing, so that's very exciting. I actually took some time off work and got a bit of sewing done. So this is my new skirt that you cannot see on camera really because the light is terrible. And, oh, it kind of just fits about in frame. So it is about knee length, perhaps a little bit shorter than knee length. It has elasticated waist at the back, but the front waist is not elasticated, so it kind of just has like that smoother finish on the front, which can look a little bit nicer than when it's elasticated all the way around. It has two pretty decently sized pockets, like you can fit your hand in at the front, and I made it with this kind of check or plaid fabric that's like green and blues and then white and red lines running through it. The fabric, I don't really know what it is. I've had it for ages and I just liked it and thought it would make a cute skirt because it kind of has like a kilty feel to it, I guess, tartany feel to it. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure what it is. The pattern is the Everyday Skirt, I think by Liesl Co. I think. That might be wrong actually, I'll have to correct myself. It's a fairly easy pattern to follow, but I was doing this in kind of a rush, kind of all over the place, because I was really trying to make the most of my time that I had off work. I took some annual leave and I just had like a million jobs to get done, and this was one of them, and sewing just takes so much longer than you think it's going to. So I'm a bit frustrated with the finish, I have to say. This is not my best work. It's a little bit messy. Oh, it's very messy inside, and the final look of the skirt doesn't quite work, but I could potentially make it a little bit better. So I've made this skirt before and it worked a lot better. I think the fabric I used then was lighter, it had more drape to it, and this just feels a little bit heavier, so it just kind of hangs and doesn't really have that like movement. I think the way that I hemmed it at the bottom, again, like I was just rushing and I didn't quite follow the instructions. It just feels like there's a bit too much fabric in the hem at the bottom. Because the fabric itself was a little bit on the thin side, I did add a lining to the inside, but instead of making a lining skirt and then attaching it, which I don't quite know how to do, I decided that it'd be simpler to attach a panel of lining to each panel of the skirt, so a piece of lining to a corresponding piece of the skirt, which is fairly straightforward, but I kept forgetting to do it. So basically the whole of the back of the skirt is just not lined on the inside because I just forgot to do that, but I did line the front and the side panels, so the front of the skirt sort of feels a little bit heavier. I mean, it's not heavy at all, but it's just the way that the fabric then kind of hangs and drapes. There's just a little bit less movement at the front than like at the back, which feels a little bit nicer, and in hindsight I probably didn't need to line it. I think I just thought it might be a bit thin in terms of how warm it would be as well, because the colours and everything make it seem like it's nice autumnal winter skirt, but actually I didn't think the fabric would actually be that warm. You probably want something in more of like a wool for winter. I don't know. Anyway, but the way that I've lined it as well means that the inside is really messy, like all the seams were just a lot less neat than they would be. I also was rushing and I rushed all the finishing of the seams. I basically just didn't finish the seams properly. I didn't iron a lot of the time, partially because I forgot where the iron was. But yeah, it was just, I'm sort of kicking myself because when I started sewing a couple of years ago and I was like, I'm going to do it properly this time, and I bought the patterns and I was following the patterns, every instruction, and I was doing all the little things like the iron as you go along, the results were just so much better. And this kind of reminds me of the sewing that I used to do, where it was just a bit slapdash, and then I end up with something like that looks okay, but I'm just probably not going to wear it because it just doesn't fit quite right. I think it's a little bit too long for me, for one thing. It could do with it being a bit shorter. I think that would be a bit cuter. And yeah, the inside is just a bit messy, so I've trimmed a lot of the loose threads, but it's still just like, I don't know if it really shows up on camera, but it's just a bit messy inside. I mean, now the camera's not focused. No one's really gonna notice, but it's just a bit frustrating because I have definitely done better work, and when I made this skirt before I made it a lot better. So yeah, it's a bit of a mixture. I'm glad that I'm getting back into sewing, and this is wearable. I just might want to take it up and make it a little bit shorter. I do think it kind of looks a bit like a school uniform. But it's definitely not the worst thing that I've sewed. Sewn. And yeah, I still think the pattern is quite a good one. It's relatively easy and straightforward to follow, and the sizing seems alright. Like, this size is the same size I made last time. The fabric doesn't have quite as much stretch to it. Not that the fabric was really stretchy before, but it just seemed to have a little bit more give. And I've expanded. So it still fits because of the elastic, so it's quite a forgiving sizing. So yeah, the everyday skirt I think is a good pattern. I just think that, like, I was trying to use up fabric I had left over. It seemed like it would work. I cut corners and I rushed it a bit, so it's a bit frustrating. But I will insert some pictures at some point of me wearing the skirt to let me know what you think in the comments. If you've liked the make, the video, please give me a like, and if you want to see more videos like this, then please subscribe. I am going to try and do more sewing, and perhaps better sewing, and be able to share that on the channel coming up soon. Okay, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.